Spencer, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably the first time in the history of 5-minute talk that we're going to have not one, but 2 talks on movies. And from talking about Bollywood cult classics to let's talk about probably the biggest Hollywood cult classic ever, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Please welcome Sophie.
Yeah.
Should we all stand up?
All right, I would like,
We would you?
if I may,
You may.
take you
Take me.
on a strange journey.
How strange was it?
So strange they made a movie about it.
All right, so first I want everyone who has seen, I want everyone to raise their hand. All right, and if you've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show live in a theater with people, put your hand down. If you have,
You got kicked out after 35 minutes, should I keep
you gotta keep it up if you haven't seen the whole thing, all right? If you've seen it 4 or more times, put your hand down. 3. Wait, did I start? Oh, sorry. I thought I started with 5 or more times.
No, but you said you had us lower our hands if we watched it, and then you said.
Oh,
if you said
sorry.
it before.
All right.
Lower your hands.
So whoever has their hand still raised has not seen it.
Right.
Okay. So
not saying it live?
that's our virgin selection who hasn't seen it live, right? And normally after that, once you've selected who hasn't seen the movie, you do some really embarrassing tryout, and then eventually the winner of the virgins gets to be a part of the show. But I was just gonna ask if one of you guys who has your hand raised could participate in my talk later on in the show, just with a reading of a couple lines from the slides as I have an arrow. Does anyone want to volunteer? You guys put your hands down. What's up? All right, I'm going to say Mike because I know that you haven't seen it. All right. I know this is a little intimidating. All right. Okay. So basically, Rocky Horror started out as a live show, and it was in London in the 70s. And a few years later, it got made into a movie with some of the same cast, including Tim Curry, and it was considered pretty much a bust until they started doing midnight showings of it in New York City. And 49 years later, to this month, in April, it's still playing nationwide in these midnight showings all over, nationwide, so all over the country. Urban Dictionary refers to a cult classic as something that's really hip with a select group of people. But I really liked it because Cracked Egg, the top definition, said the Rocky Horror Picture Show was sort of the example definition of that. And what I really wanted to convey to you guys is why is Rocky Horror Picture Show different from all these other cult classics? I put up a few. And for me, the main thing is the audience participation and sort of the environment that's gone along with the show over the years. So, audience participation is huge. If you go to a show, I mean, there's yelling out, there's props, so these are some of the things that you can buy for $1 when you go to the show and participate in using them throughout the show. And the callbacks, which I will discuss. Oh, and the time warp, which includes these moves. So if you can't read that, it says put your hands on your hips and bring your knees in tight. So yeah, I can show you guys later. So this is sort of what the live performance looks like. So you have the movie at the top and then the actors down below. So here this is one of the first scenes where they have a newspaper, and if you ever go to the show, someone will call her a cheap bitch for not bringing an umbrella, which I think is pretty clever. Okay, so this live performance led to the callbacks. So Virgin, be conscientious when I point.
Okay.
So
Who put a billboard in my cemetery?
Who put a cemetery on my billboard?
It was a grave mistake.
I don't like men with too many muscles.
Just one big one. Oh, how do you give a blowjob, Columbia?
Slowly, slowly. It's too nice a job to rush. So these are lines that come from it, and the audience knows these lines by heart, and so yells them out at the perfect time, which is great. So yeah, the final point of my talk is that you should join the cult. Cookies and Emma Watson. You can see it. So it was playing in Harvard Square, and the Harvard Square Theater closed. So now you can go to the Boston Common every Saturday night at midnight and see it. Yes, do you have a question?
Yeah. Did the callbacks start originally with the show, or were those like added in by some people?
Yep, so they started in 1976 in April in New York City. It was actually the first one that I said about get an umbrella, you cheap bitch. That's deemed as the first ever callback. It was by a professor. You guys are all aspiring to. Yeah, so it goes at midnight and it ends around 2 a.m. And then she was in the Harvard Square one, and she's on the website right now, and she's Columbia, who we were talking about her blowjobs. So I think we have time just to, assuming the sound is good.